Well, today I'm going to bore the holes for the legs in the seat right here. Then I'll ream them with the taper reamer, and then I'll measure for the stretchers, and then I'll turn the stretchers. So on the plans here you'll see two locations for the holes. Now the dark ring, and it states it there, it says, let me put my glasses on so I can read it. It says, if drilling prior to carving, use this location. So, and that's pointing to the lighter location. I usually drill after I carve the seat, and that's why it's the dark location here. But if you're drilling prior to carving the seat, you have to move the hole this way, or it ends up too close to the gutter right here. So just needed to explain a little bit of that to you right there. So I'll be boring the hole along the sight line from the top of the seat, and then I'll be reaming from the bottom. So let's go to the chair seat and do that. Well, I'm set up to drill here, so I drill from the top. You could certainly figure it out to where you drill from the bottom, but that's not the way I do it. Drill from the top. And one common mistake that I've seen done, and I almost did it one of the first times I was making a chair, is leaning back that way. I don't know. We just feel like we're on the bottom of the chair, I guess. So lean back towards the seat if you're drilling from the top. Now, as you can see, I've already drilled these holes, so I messed up. I shouldn't drill them. What I was thinking was, well, it doesn't matter what I was thinking. It was wrong. And but anyway, I can set up and just show you how I drill them. So if you're drilling them before you carve the seat, then of course you can put your bevel square anywhere. But if you drill them after you carve the seat, you can set it just right over here on the spindle deck, right like that. And if you want, you could put up a mirror right back over here to look at it, if that'll help you, or get somebody over there to look at it. Or you can just look at it right like that and then drill it. I like to make sure I'm lined up directly behind the line. Now here, I've already carved the bottom of the seat and sawn out the back. And typically, that's not done by this time. I keep all of this intact back here. Then I can have something to clamp to, and then have the whole seat extending out in the air here to where I can drill through. But so I've just kind of set this up, mocked it up for you, so you can just see how I set up the bevel square. So anyway, so I set up bevel square there. I get directly behind the line and drill the hole right like that. Now, drill with power drill if you want, drill with any, all of them drill holes, so whatever you prefer to use. I just prefer the bit brace. Now, one advantage to use an auger bit like this is you can stop when the point comes through on the other side, and then when you flip it over, and I'll explain this on the other side so you can see it easy. When you flip it over and you're trying to draw these lines on the bottom, you've got the center of the hole, which is this point, to go by. Then after you draw the line, then you can drill through the back side and clean the hole out. So anyway, this one's set up for 18.3, and of course 18.3 just happens to be the math. You set it for 18.5, whatever you want really, and lean back right like that and drill it. And then when I reset up for back here, I would set it at the obtuse angle and put it on the spindle deck and drill back that way right there. Okay. So now we got them drilled. We're going to flip it over and start reaming them. They haven't been reamed yet, so that's good. Okay. Well, so got my legs in the kiln. They've been there for, well, they've been there for a while, but they only need to be there for probably, if the tenons were at EMC, then 24 hours would be fine for drying. If you can see right here, there they are sticking down. So I'm drying the tenons but not drying the mortise up here. So the mortise is staying at EMC, whatever that is this time of year. I don't know, let's say it's 15 to 18 probably, something like that, which would be just perfect. And down here we're below 5, you know, 3 or 4 or something like that. So I'm going to pull these out and then ream them in. Okay, so I got the lines laid out, and like I was saying before, if you don't bore back through with your auger bit and go ahead and draw the lines while you just have the hole from the lead screw, then you've got the center of the hole. It's not a big deal, but it's, you know, something. Then you don't have to guess where the center of that hole is. Lay out your lines and then bore back through. Okay, so I got the lines laid out. There's the center line. You can't see it because I didn't darken it. Should have. And I'm on a rear leg here. Now, like I said before, usually I have the whole back of the seat to clamp to that I haven't sawn off yet, but I sawed it off. And so now I'm having to just clamp it up to where I've got one leg hole sticking over. Usually I just do both of them at the same time. Usually I do all 4 of them in one clamp up, but now I'm going to have to move them around. That's okay. So my rear legs, as you see on the plans, are a 1/2 inch shorter. You could turn them all the same length and then you know, cut off the chair whenever you get it all together. That works too. I've just turned the rear ones a 1/2 inch shorter here. So so I'm going to be tapering this to go into there. So now the reamers that I use are 6-degree reamers. They're made out of a saw blade, or can be made out of a saw blade. If you want to make your own, you can go to I think Green Woodworking site. I believe that's what Alexander has it called, and you can make one according to that. Or you could buy one. Alia Bazzari makes these, and Tim Manny makes these, and you can find them both on the web and buy them. So these are 6-degree reamers. This was 24 point something. I forget, 24.6 or something like that. And so you could set your bevel square up for 24.6 and read off of the blade, but the blade would then have to be turned dead perpendicular to this to get an accurate reading. Or you could have a long bevel square and read off of this right here, which is parallel, okay, at that 24.6. What I prefer to do is subtract 3, since this is a 6-degree reamer. 1/2 of 6 is 3, and so I subtract 3, and so I put this at 21.6, and then I can read off of the front of the taper right there, okay? And then I need a tri-square, so that gives me my resultant angle, and then I'll put a tri-square out here to sight for my sighting angle for this plane right here. And then I also need a pair of dividers. You know, a lot of times people will put a score line right here, and they'll go down to the score line and take them all down to the score line, and that makes a lot of sense, but I don't do that. I take a pair of dividers and I go off of the score line of the stretcher, because to me the most important part is where that stretcher line is off the seat. And in turning, since I'm not paying that much attention to where these marks are, that evens it all out. Make sure that all the stretchers are at the same level. So I'm going to leave, get the dividers and the tri-square, and I believe that's the only 2 things I need. I'll be back. So what I'm getting ready to do is to ream the legs into the seat. Now you'll see on the plans that the depth I take them to is 9 3/4, and that says measured in line with sight line on obtuse angle side of turning. If that doesn't make any sense to you, I'm going to explain it to you when we get back over to the seat. But and I'm actually going to set it at 9 7/8. 9 3/4 gives you about a 1/4 inch play down here, and that takes off the minimum amount off of the bottom of the leg. On these legs that are tapered like this, that's not real important. You could take off a 1/2 inch, you could take off 3/4 of an inch, and you probably wouldn't even see any difference there. But the reason that I have it calculated that close is because of another leg, which, excuse me a minute, I'll grab it. So it's one of these ball and cylinder legs right here. You see there's the end of the foot, of course, and here you want to cut off the minimum amount of the bottom of this leg to have as much below this bulb, this vase, as possible. And of course, if there's much difference between one leg and another leg, you'll pick it up a whole lot more because that space is so short. So that's why that I've got 9 3/4 on these to match any leg. Now this leg is not on this chair, and I don't ever put it on this chair. It's on the comb back. But I went ahead and just maintained that consistency with all of the plans. But what I'm going to do is give myself just a tad bit more leeway here, and I'm going to put that at 9 7/8 instead of 9 3/4. You can do whatever you want. So in sighting for the sighting angle here, which is what this is, I use the 3-point system. So I put a tri-square up right on the line, and there's the point on my reamer, and then there'd be a point out here along the line somewhere that you're going to use, and you line up those 3 points and you can see exactly which way that reamer needs to go. Now don't let the point on the reamer influence what you're seeing. When you look back, you're going to line up first the tri-square and this point. Then look back at this and see where it then lies along that plane. And then you'll know you got to move to the right or you got to move to the left. Okay, so that's the way that I'm going to be sighting the sighting angle. Now the resultant angle is a whole lot easier. So like I said, I've subtracted 3 degrees here, so it's 21 point whatever, and all I do now is just push it up against the reamer along your sighting line. Don't get it cocked like that. Along the sighting line, and you can see precisely what you need to do. So I always say which direction I need to go so I don't confuse myself later on. So if I looked at that, I would say I need to go right and I need to go up a tad bit. So then when I move my squares, I know that I kind of push slightly in the direction of right and up. And you keep the reamer seated. You don't let it get up here and waller around. You keep it seated right like that, and then you'll have to pull it out and clean it. But before I pull it out and clean it, I'll check that angle. I need to come back, and I'll check the sighting angle, and I need to go right. So right and back is what I'm going to go after I clean the reamer out. So I've got the reamer cleaned out, and I'm going to go right and back. So I keep it seated because you want to cut a true taper. If it's not seated, you'll waller out the top. And then I'm just going to lean in the direction that I want it to go. Okay. So now I'm going to check the sighting angle, and overshot it a little bit. It's okay. Got plenty of time to correct it. And that one I gained about half of it, something like that. So I've got to go back and left. Now, the other thing that I want to do is to check the depth. And this is where I was talking about the 9 7/8. And where that's measured, it says along the siding line, the obtuse angle. So what we're talking about is I put the dividers right there where the line and the leg meet, and coming straight up the center of the leg, I'm looking for that score line right there of my stretcher. So you see I've got about 7/8 to go, so I got quite a ways to go on that. So just put that to the side, and so left and back. Now let's see what I've got. Okay, I'm nailing that. That one's, the resultant angle plane is perfect. And I'm splitting that. So if I could just maintain it, which is not likely. Okay, let me check it one more time before I pull it out. That's looking good. And that could go slightly to the right. I'm just hitting just on the side of the center point. And I like about 5/16, I'd say. Okay, keep an eye on it here. I brought it back. I'm just dead in line. And that one is really close. It is just a smidgen back too much, but not enough to really even correct. So I've got about 1/16 to go. I should be really close there. Now, I was just thinking, you probably can't see that score line. So right there is where it is. So now I'm just hitting dead on it. Now another thing that I've done is I've got grain orientation here. And I've got grain orientation all through the chair. And this is explained in the basic chair making video information. If you want to go more into depth on that, you'll have to go back to one of those and look. But the growth rings of the tenon are always perpendicular to the long wood fibers of the mortise piece, and the Y's and etc. on that are in that basic information stuff. So okay, so this one's set. I'm going to go ahead while you aren't looking and do the other 3, and when I get those done, then we'll come back and go to the next step. Well, I'm on my last leg here. Got the front one and the right front, and the way I number them, is 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll show you when I number this one. I use just the tick marks, 4 tick marks on the seat and on the leg, and that also denotes the orientation of that leg. And I always put it on the inside of the leg, the notation, and that way I know where the inside of the leg is, so I know where that hole gets bored. Anyway, it's a system, and you just put together your own system and you maintain that system, and it reveals mistakes before they happen sometimes. Alright, so I've got about 7/16 or so to go on that one, and I forget now which way I was supposed to go, so I want to measure it, since I forgot which way I was supposed to go, without cutting. So I'm going to turn it backwards, like that, so I get it seated but I don't cut anything. And put the bevel square up, and I see I got to come back. And right. So back and right. Okay, see what we got there. Okay, overshot it, but just a little bit. That's not a problem at all. And what I do here, I am shy about 1/8 of an inch. So I want to go up and right. Up and right. So let's take it out. And I've got a 1/16 to go, and I ought to be able to get that in a 1/16. Up and right. So, but up wasn't much, so I'm really not even going to bother with up. It'll probably naturally go there since I pulled back to gain the other and I overshot. A lot of times it just kind of goes back up with the next cut a little bit. So I'm just going to go right. Okay. Now, let's see where we are. Well, didn't quite get it. It's close. And that one's pretty much nailing it there. I would say I'm there. I'm there. I am just dead on the line, and so I was good in the resultant angle plane, and I was just a little off. Which way? This way. I was a little off this way, which absolutely will make no difference at all in the chair. So that's fine. So the next thing I'll do when we come back is I'll set everything up, put all the legs in, and measure for the stretchers.